Shout out to Barry Roblox. How are you? He says hi. Let me know what part of the world you are from. Where you're about to start the show in a couple of minutes. Let's get the comments section going. Let's get the likes. Let's get the subscribe button. And let's get it started soon. Let's get it cracking. Come on, get those likes up. We're going to get started in 2 minutes from now. 2 minutes we'll get it started. Right. We're going to get started in 2 minutes. Okay, 2 minutes from now. Actually, you know what? 30 seconds. And here we go. Just like that, we're going to start the stream. So, Ronda Rousey had a couple of words to say about the UFC today at the press conference, right? Now, I believe this particular press conference, let us see where this press conference had taken place. I believe it was in LA. This press conference had taken place. Let's take a look and see. Because I know the fight is in LA. But I believe the press conference today was where? Let's see here. What did my man Joshua Foster here say? He said, the only way I could be happy with the way he is now, and I love it, for that I hope you guys are happy too. I hope that he is doing better now that you all know how to handle the pain of being sick. Okay, that's quite a wordful right there, Josiah Foster. What was that about? Nasty says, are you Muslim? I am, yes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah barakatuh to you, my man. Let me know what part of the world you are from. He says, I know it is a thought to ponder. Yeah, what brought that up, man? You know, those are quite some choice words to make right there. I wonder what, sort of motivated you to say that. And also, what is the context and meaning behind it? And what exactly do you want us to ponder? So, all right, today, Ronda Rousey drags the UFC corporate image while standing beside the canceled Disney star Gina Carano, okay? Now, that's crazy right there, all right? Nasty says, I'm from Guatemala. Islam is growing here. Wow, is that right? Is that right? Wow, I did not know that, man. So Guatemala has a growing Muslim population. Now that is insane. Okay, so today, obviously, this press conference had been taking place in Inglewood. All right, so Inglewood is where this place took place. He says, "Do you know the new Chinese UFC fighter?" Yeah, I have no idea who that is. Although I think you're trying to set me up to say something funny, or yeah. Josiah says Jesus is a prophet. Okay, that's what I'm going to say to that, right? We can argue that all day. Jesus is a prophet. Okay, so who would have guessed Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey would be facing off and would result in a fight coming up just this year in 2026? Not only just this year in 2026, we're talking about May, which is a couple of months from now, and then 1 month after that is a UFC White House card, right? By the way, on a Tuesday, the pair, which is today, right? The pair of these ladies hit the stage in Inglewood, okay, for a press conference. All right, so at first I was pretty pumped and excited about it, right? Just not knowing what to expect. I mean, you got Ronda Rousey, right? The biggest female combat sports superstar in history, taking on Gina Carano, who, by the way, has a bit of some, how do I say this, dodgy reputation. I mean, for whatever that means, right? And they're going to clash May 16th, Netflix, and man, I got to be honest with you. This is a squash match. It is. But the fact that they are coming together, it's sort of similar to when, let's say, Jake Paul, okay? Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. When that came about, you knew that Anthony Joshua was going to put it on Jake Paul. You knew it. You knew that Jake Paul was going to lose. But for whatever reason, you had decided you're going to watch it anyway. Well, that's what we got going on here, right? So an article from El-Kheer paper today, website. So, okay, Ronda Rousey didn't hold back, took her aim at the UFC for not paying its fighters, okay? She dug into their shareholders' first mentality that she claims prioritized profit over the athletes who built the sport. El-Nathsi says, I have 4 wives from California, 1 from Mexico, 1 from the Philippines, and I just married a 4th in Guatemala. Okay, so hey, Guatemalan idiot, don't lie to this bearded guy. Well, how do you know he's lying, right? Asuma, would you agree that Gina looks like she's not fit as Ronda? Yes, obviously, right? Because even though both of their hiatus could well over past a decade, right? Ronda Rousey, 10 years. Gina Carano, 2009. It's obvious that Ronda Rousey still maintained in shape, still trained martial arts. Not so much Gina Carano, right? And I think this fight is going to end drastically quickly. It's going to be one of those Ronda Rousey throwback moments where she finishes people in less than a minute. One of them type of things. It's not going to last long. It's not going to last long at all. So, let's hear what Ronda Rousey had to say earlier. Let's see here. MVP. He says, America will soon be American Stan. Yeah. I would have never thought I'd see today, but who knows, maybe. About the 2 women. Inshallah. He says, Ronda is fake. I remember her saying she was getting paid well back in the days. About 20
24 hours ago. Everyone talking about it since. We're going to get a chance to talk to the two men who have just been added to this card, two very big men. First, let us say hello to the pride of Brazil, the 2018 PFL tournament champion. He then went over to the UFC, was on a...
Easton Lopez says, hello, how are you an entrepreneur? Well, do you really want me to answer that question for you? Let me explain something to you, right? You take risk, you do things that other people are not willing to do. You go into things that you know that work, businesses that you know work, ventures that you know are going to be lucrative, and sometimes you take chances, right? But the brave favors the fortune. That's just how it goes. Someone says, hey, Guatemalan jerk, don't be a jerk, you're a total liar. Okay, well, you can be anything you want to be on the internet, I suppose, right? El Nasty says, brother, thoughts on the Iran situation? Oh, man, I have plenty of thoughts on that, right? Number one, I think that the U.S. is going to lose this war, and I think a lot of people have a hard time swallowing that. And the reason being is because the strategic matter in which the U.S. is sort of engaging in this is doing it all wrong, right? Number one, they want to continue to perpetuate this war. And the more that they perpetuate this war, they're going to put themselves in a very tough situation to where they're either going to have to pull out, which they're going to look like cowards, and they don't want that, or they're going to have to send ground troops in, which will inevitably lose more lives of American troops, which will only make the war unpopular. And then on top of the economic strife that will come along with it. He says, I don't like Ariel Helwani. Okay, what do you don't like about him? Cabo says, will Gina Carano survive the first round of fight prediction? No. My fight prediction for this is a Ronda Rousey classic. Goes in here, clinches up, takes her down, judo hip toss, and then submission, maybe an armbar. Ronda Rousey classic. Brother, the Ummah needs to unite. Gotcha, yes. 100% I agree with that.
A 4-fight losing streak, winning streak, and then crossed over and has not fought since. We have not seen him since 2024, but he is now back, taking on a massive, massive challenge in the form of his opponent. Curious as to why he's taking this, how this all came about. Let us say hello. Please give a warm Inglewood welcome to the one and only Philippe Lins.
Okay, so they're doing some introduction here. Let's get to the press conference.
Good to see you, my friend. His opponent really needs no introduction, but I'm going to try to give him one anyway. He is currently the lineal MMA heavyweight champion of the world, the former UFC heavyweight champion, who we have not seen in the octagon for a bit, but he has still been quite active.
El Nasty says Sunni and Shia need to unite for now and fight the real problem. Well, see, there's a lot of complicated matters in that, I'll tell you. You know what I mean? It's not as easy as just having the Sunnis and Shias unite with each other.
2 years ago, he crossed over to the world of boxing. He went toe-to-toe with, at the time, the champion, the one and only Tyson Fury, and I still believe, till this day, he won that fight. He then fought, of course, Anthony Joshua, and in about October of 2024...
Errol, you know you would not say that to Tyson Fury's face, let alone anybody near his camp. Especially John Fury. Can you imagine if John Fury heard Ariel Helwani say that right now? There's no one man alive. John Fury is in the house. How dare you, Ariel Helwani? You're a shithouse. You's a bloody shithouse, you Ariel Helwani. That's what he would say to him.
About a year and a half or so ago, he last fought in his last MMA fight. He became the PFL Super Fight Champion when he defeated Renan Ferreira. This will be his first fight since. This one kind of came out of nowhere, but we found out about it yesterday. He is, in fact...
Super Need Name says, I'm interested in making a purchase of some of your Diddy, no Diddy. Mixed it together and four in my hand. Yeah, you're kind of weird, man. Yeah, Hawani is a shit house.
Here, he is the man who is hailing from Cameroon, from France. Le Predator!
Le Predator! Le Predator! I love how Ariel Hawani always wants to emphasize to you that he knows French, and so he, like, overemphasizes it. He's like, Le Predator! Le Predator! Francis Ngannou! Le Predator!
One and only, Francis Ngannou!
So, El Nasty, you say that this card is horrible, right? Ronda Rousey begs to differ with you. She says this card is better than the White House card. Can you imagine? She's saying this card is better than the White House card. I let you be the judge of that. You said you think that's CTE talking now? Yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Great to see you, Francis. That is, in my opinion, still to this day, the baddest man on the planet. Can't wait to talk to him in just a matter of moments. But we do have to say hello to the main event. And let's say hello to one half of the main event. We last saw her compete in a pro MMA fight back in 2009.
Facts.
I'll be honest.
Facts. I agree with that, right? Francis Ngannou and Rico were supposed to happen. But then again, so was Rico versus Anthony Joshua. Rico had just decided, you know what, I'm going to go fight the heavyweight champion of the world. Why not go for it?
One of my favorite fighters of all time. And then she left and went on to a great career in the world of TV and Hollywood. But she is now...
Okay, let's skip the introduction.
Sport, regardless of...
It's, hey, we get to live once. And this makes me feel so alive. And so I'm just super grateful for the opportunity.
To it again and explaining things and getting back to it made me fall in love with martial arts again. It kind of, it reminded me of the joy that it gave me from the very beginning and why.
And then Flip came out to be the best option. There were a couple names, but among them, Felipe was the best option, so they chose him.
Blessed for me. He gave me his blessing to go out and do it on my own. And if anyone's been his apprentice, you know, on how to be a promoter, it's been me. And after...
And not to mention that you and Dana White had a bit of a relationship going on. But hey, you know, I guess you really need his approval, I suppose.
After...
El Nasty says, if Ilya versus Islam, McGregor versus Nate Diaz 3, and Jones versus Pereira happened, that would have been the best card in history. Yes. But I've told you guys plenty of times, right? The reason why you did not get a card like that is because there's multitudes of reasons why certain cards don't happen in the UFC. Because one fighter's injured, one fighter has, let's say, a contract negotiation issue, which, by the way, all of the above is the reason why we have a very limited card, or at least a very lackluster card in the way that, in comparison to the way that it was marketed from a year ago. Now you got Ronda Rousey saying that the White House card is a lot better than her card, and I don't know if I would go that far.
I let him know before anybody else that I had gone to Netflix and...
Yes, El Nasty. Brendan Schaub and Dana White are Eskimo brothers thanks to Ronda. That is a fact. And that is the reason why Ronda Rousey, till this day, speaks so highly of Dana White, and she even mentions it in this press conference. Obviously, I'm just skipping around to kind of give you guys a little bit of some context or whatever we can find in these clips. But yeah, you could watch the whole press conference on your own. They also did a media scrum afterwards. We're going to take a look at that as well.
I wanted to, I didn't want him to be upset with me, and he was like, I could never be upset with you. I love you so much. I want you to do great.
I could never be, Dana White says, I could never be upset with you. I want you to do great. There's no way I could be upset with you. Meanwhile, here's Dana White. He is, literally upset with everybody, including Eddie Hearn, but he's never upset at Ronda Rousey. Interesting.
To be successful, he's always been my friend first before anything else, and I think that.
Oh, he was your friend first before anything else. Okay, very interesting.
Most of my criticisms of the UFC now is because Dana isn't the owner, and he isn't calling the shots, and he isn't running things the way that he wants, because he's an employee of the company now.
Ronda gave him the time of his life. Oh, stop it. That's why they call you El Nasty, bro.
Not an owner, and I think it was a big mistake of theirs to not let him just run things the way that he always has.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, you wish that he would have just let him run things the way that he always has, but this is the way that he's always ran things, right? Now they just gave him a little bit more money, a little bit more bonus because, well, they got that $7.7 billion going on.
Because I think most of them are in the same situation. We are not an employee. We are independent contractor. And then we should be able to get what we deserve. And if we don't get, we will be able to have a right to walk away and go look other option. Because the thing now is that there is always like contract tying people up, and then they can get free, and then you want to set free, and then they muscles you up, and lowball you. But I'm happy I'm out of that. That's all what I can say.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask a question to Gina. How are you viewing the state of your MMA career? Is this a one and done? Is this a, let me see how I feel on May 17th, the next day?
Yeah, no one cares. Skip.
Case spicy.
Your perfect domain is out there. Go to Wix and make it yours.
Monkeys have babies again, and I don't kill them, and I move them over into their sea monkey nursery. I don't know.
No Mama's Boxing. No Mas Boxing. My question is for Ronda. Yeah, it should have been a better name. You dominated in multiple arenas, not just the fight scene, but also film. When you look at your career today, what motivates you now compared to when you first started?
I mean, this is a really unique fight, I think, in that it's entirely self-motivated, This is for me. I think my last two fights, I felt like I had to be there for other people, and it got away from me. And this is me really, really reclaiming that. And of course, it kind of becomes more about everybody else because of the grandiosity of this event and everybody that's become a part of it. But deep down, this is the fight that I always wanted, and the only fight that I wanted to come back for, the only thing that could inspire me and light that fire back in me again.
All right, as we're skipping around.
In this form, in this spirit, in this mood, and then to add to that, Francis and Philippe as well, and this is not going to be just a two-fight card. Many more fights will be announced in the coming days and weeks.
Kaboon, I'm going to say Alex Pereira. Right, Alex Pereira and Ilya Topuria are the biggest stars right now. Would you agree with that, or not? Or would you say there are other newer guys that are bigger stars? I mean, obviously we know Conor, Khabib, even the guys from the past before them. But today, yeah, it is Alex Pereira and Ilya Topuria, just based on current activity levels alone and superstardom that goes with the current activity levels alone, along with the status quo of being the champion in the current moment of time. He says, hey, bro, do you remember me? Of course, man. From the Philippines, right? I believe from Baguio, the northern part of the Philippines, man. Shout out to you and everybody in the Philippines, my man. A big shout out to you and a salute to all of you guys.
Wait for those announcements, but to repeat, two of the greatest of all time, two pioneers.
Oh, it was only a couple of days ago, I reckon.
Two trailblazers are coming your way on May the 16th, live and exclusively on Netflix, the biggest platform in the world, airing its very first mixed martial arts event. Historic. Doesn't even begin to scratch the surface.
Le Predator, Francis Ngannou. My name is El-Kheer, and I want you to know that I speak French fluently. All right, there you go. Ariel Hawani. All right, so Dana just got exposed on that one. Big time. Big time Dana White got exposed on that one in multiple ways, right? Ronda just could not help herself, revealing a whole lot of information, and yeah, and that's that. So let's take a look at Ronda Rousey's media scrum that she did today. So let's check that out. All right, here we go. It says UFC has made a huge mistake going with Paramount. Okay, that's yeah, kind of putting UFC on the blast right there for their particular choices. Their choices of sort of going with, you know, this company. But let's hear what Ronda Rousey has to say here.
Ronda, first of all, welcome back. It's nice to have you back. When this whole journey started, I'm sure, obviously, as you said, you wanted to do this with the UFC. To have the option of Netflix and MVP outside of that, how relieved are you that there were people ready to put you as a partner and treat you in the way that you felt you deserved?
I mean, we were entertaining other options. I'd found other investors. You know, we could have gone to Triller or Fight TV and other things like that. But when I was connected with he said MVP and the Netflix, I mean, Netflix was always the ultimate goal. I mean, they're the biggest player out there, and it's like the most premium channel or outlet that we could.
All right, and that makes sense. You know why? Because if there's anybody that could compete with ESPN, Paramount, all these companies that the UFC is entangled with, it's probably Netflix. And Netflix was sort of in the bid to try to get the UFC at one point.
Beyond, that's what I think that this fight really deserves, and I think that the UFC made a huge mistake going with Paramount and just taking the biggest check, because they left the biggest streamer in the world with a need that they want filled, and someone else is going to fill it, and the UFC just feels like they're too big to fail, and it doesn't matter. And so then they have this fight of me and Gina, the two biggest names in the sport when it comes to international name recognition. I think a lot of people in MMA don't realize how few people outside of MMA know who anyone in it is. And I've had so many people come up to me and be like, oh man, I haven't watched fights since when you were fighting. I don't even know who any of the champions are now. And that's extremely common. And so because of their short-term greed of trying to like basically hog as much of that Paramount check for the shareholders as possible, they let the biggest fight that in recent history, I mean, or maybe in the history of the sport, go to the biggest streamer that they left wide open for somebody else to take. And now this is going to be the most viewed MMA fight of all time easily, and they just let it go. Why?
Look, that's a bit of some wishful thinking, right? To say that automatically this is going to be the biggest fight in Netflix's history. You don't know that, because yes, it is you that is a big star. Gina's a big star, but you also have to remember, right? Gina has said some really choice words when she got kicked out of that Disney show she was doing. And I realized that can really hurt her stock. You understand? Like, for example, Kanye West is a great example that we can compare Gina Carano with, right? Kanye West said what he said, and when Kanye West said what he said, how do you think his stock went? when he started rapping about the Austrian painter. You know what I mean? There was a lot of, well, yeah, a lot of stocks that sort of dropped for Kanye. His music, his net worth. So it's almost like he didn't have the same pull, right? The only people that can really pull off of Kanye are the people that were longtime fans of his. Now, the difference with Gina Carano, unfortunately, is that Gina Carano is somebody that hasn't been in the limelight lately, at least in terms of fighting. Like, they know her as somebody that was in Disney or this and that, but everything in this game is about recency bias, right? Everything in entertainment is recency bias. So, yes, Ronda was sort of active in the WWE. That's great. But what has Gina Carano been doing the past couple of years?
I think that that they're the only gig in town, and somebody is going to come and fill that void that they're leaving.
Well, they are. The UFC is the only gig in town right now. Anybody else will come second. But depending on how, I mean, nobody will come close, right? The only people that can compete in MMA in terms of leagues are people that are going to be the number 2 and the number 3. So in this case, PFL, Bellator, which is now the same company. So it's Bellator versus Ryzen, number 1 and number 2, and then you got the regional shows to follow up. But ultimately, the UFC is number 1, and they can't be denied. They won't be denied, and as a result of that, there's nobody that's going to even come close to where they are at, and that's just the reality of this situation. But all right.
And MVP is ready to be there and to innovate and to take the risk, and honestly, it's not much of a risk.
Cabo says, who is coaching Ronda? Same guy? If so, Carano has a chance. You forget that Edmund Tavarian took her to a championship level, to the fact that the level that Ronda Rousey was fighting at wasn't really that high from its early stages. By the way, Gina Carano predates that. So imagine, Ronda Rousey was dominating the MMA women's scene in 2013, right? Very underdeveloped at that time. Gina Carano is even more underdeveloped, and that is why I say she predates the women of the UFC, because she couldn't even be in the UFC because the thought of women fighting at the UFC of her generation was unfathomable. And on top of that, such a low level that it wouldn't have been worth it. That's just the reality of it. Which means I stick by my prediction, first round submission, or even a TKO ground and pound finish for Ronda Rousey. Kabu says, I disagree, my boy. Her judo took her there. Her boxing was her downfall. Okay, I see what you're saying. So you're saying the boxing of Mr. Head Movement. There's Edmund Tavarian in the corner going, head movement, head movement. I'm like, yeah, but which direction, Edmund? Head movement. Hey, Edmund, what do you have to say about Ronda Rousey's, new profound skill going into this fight? Head movement! Okay, thank you very much, Edmund Tavarian. Head movement!
There's been a lot of talk about Dana White's passion for the UFC at the moment. You see a difference in the way he talks at those press conferences versus Zuffa boxing and power slap and all that. Do you feel like his hands are just tied and this is a man frustrated? Or do you feel, you mentioned Paramount and the shareholders, has he just sort of won the game? What do you think is the difference in the UFC pre-Paramount and now?
I think it's kind of cool that it's out of his hands, it's kind of like George Lucas sold his baby, and now they're doing other things with it that he can't. I think you almost have to emotionally separate yourself so you don't get upset with the kind of things and because everything used to be bottlenecked for him. Every little bit of what you saw on TV had a touch of his passion in his eye, and now it's being like everything is being shipped out to a whole bunch of people that are just have no real passion or love for the sport and are just clocking into a job, and you can see that. And you know, he won MMA. What else is he gonna do? Now he's gonna go and probably try and win something else and create.
Yeah, that is correct, right? He did win MMA, and what else is he going to do? He's going to go and try and win boxing, right? He ruled MMA, so now it is time to go and try other things. So, yeah, he's quite bored, Dana White, right? He's one of these guys that needs a new excitement. He needs a new challenge, and boxing and power slap is that for him right now. He already won MMA. He already won boxing to a certain degree. Now he wants to go and venture into new things or just continue on and winning in boxing, or at least he thinks he's winning in boxing, but yeah.
A sport out of nothing like slap or take over boxing, and I think it'd be really, really hard to stay super motivated to pursue, just hit that same note over and over and over. I mean, I switched careers 3 times. I'm surprised he's still doing it.
Last one for me is, you're talking about this, John Jones is talking about this, France is talking about this, and Conor is now saying he's waiting for a not greedy offer. Is this the moment, big names in the sport are talking about it, that we finally see some pushback on the UFC and maybe some change?
I mean, I really hope that the UFC sees that the writing is on the wall, and they're going to lose the market share of the sport if they don't start prioritizing the fighters and not just trying to get away with putting up fights that are basically as cheap as possible.
I'm going to tell you why they get away with that, right? The reason why they get away with that is because of these 3 famous letters. UFC. When the Fertitta brothers bought the UFC for $2 million, they knew what they were doing. They knew that they bought an entity that was recognizable, an entity that had this fierce reputation behind it, and also an entity that, along with that fierce reputation, they can build something new out of it. Now they built the Ultimate Fighter. Then after that, they started building pay-per-views. Then they started building pay-per-view stars. And the next thing you know, they started venturing out into the international markets, so on and so forth, right? This is what the UFC was built on, right? Escalation. And then they finally had made it. They became the #1 game in town, to where when you talk about MMA, you're talking about the UFC, right? If you're a kid aspiring to be an MMA fighter, the first thing you say is, I want to fight for the UFC. And of course, there are other guys out there that have made a living outside of the UFC, and there always will be, right? There's guys that will always be MMA legends outside of the UFC, but ultimately, when you want name recognition, it is the UFC above all else. So that's something you got to understand, right? It is UFC or nothing, especially in the world of MMA, and you cannot compete with that. You know, it is UFC or nothing. That's it. It's UFC or nothing. Anyways, back to Ronda here.
Because that's how they keep the most of that upfront check, right? They don't have any incentive to put on the best fights possible. They're not doing pay-per-view anymore. The way that they keep the most of that $7.7 billion is to spend as little as possible, and there's no incentive for them to have the biggest names and the best fights. And yeah, it's the what's it called? The change is coming, and I'm very happy to be at the forefront of it. In fact, I probably wouldn't have it any other way. I can't help it. All right, back here.
Talking about the partnership with this fighter first. Let's talk about fighter first. What are your thoughts on being coming boxing?
Oh man, I think that guy has balls of steel. He ain't that big. I'm married to a heavyweight, okay? I walked up to him like, you fought a heavyweight? You're fighting heavyweights. I mean, and he has not been an athlete his whole life. He came into it later. I mean, I think he is a promoter that fights more than he is a fighter that promotes. But I mean, currently has the most viewed fight of all time with Mike Tyson, 108 million views, and it is because he understood that that it's not the landscape is changing. No, the divisions are too overly saturated. nobody has no name recognition, and so these showcase fights are really the future. And he really like.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to agree with that, right? She said that the showcase fights are the future. Let's talk about this, right? Right now, the hottest fights, Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. That's a hot fight that a lot of people are going to look forward to. Then you got Rico Verhoeven and Usyk. That's a hot fight that people are looking forward to. What else? Showcase fights. Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. That was a showcase fight. Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury. That was a showcase fight. You know who started all of these showcase fights? Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. The Maymac fight.
Captured that lightning in a bottle with Mike Tyson, and I had so many people that have nothing to do with fighting asking me about that fight, because it wasn't just about him and Mike Tyson. It was, is the best of the boomers going to beat some punk little zoomer that came up on a YouTube channel and decided to get in shape one day, you know? And it's like, so it's kind of like youth versus experience, and so many things into it that was more than just that. And I think he's got his finger on the pulse of this business, and that's why I feel like this taking this fight was a no-brainer.
Thank you guys.
All right, let's hear what Jake Paul had to say on the media scrum on this one, right? Let's hear what he had to say here. Okay, so Gina Carano had her scrum. We're not going to listen to that. It's probably boring. But, okay, let's hear Francis Ngannou. He had something to say here. And then we'll look at Jake Paul as well, right? We'll do that. We'll do Francis Ngannou and then Jake Paul, and then we'll go from there.
First question?
If you went to fight Jake Paul, would it be a boxing or would it be
Where do you think he can survive?
First question, they asked him, hey, if you and Jake Paul are going to fight, is it going to be MMA or boxing? And then he says, where do you think he's going to survive? And I think it's going to be boxing, right? Because, man, with MMA, it may be a little bit too much for him taking on Francis Ngannou, but who knows?
Either fight would be a very, very tough fight.
I think the only thing that he gets is boxing.
Boxing?
Yeah.
Have a better chance boxing you?
Better chance, I would not say it like that.
You'll still be the winner?
What do you think? Of course I will still be the winner. You can fight me in anything he wants.
Next question.
Francis, it feels like whenever there's talk about fighter pay, you're somehow involved, you're on this Netflix card. When you left the UFC and it was talking about you trying to get your freedom, do you recognize the same feeling around the sport now as you did when you left?
Well, I think everything that is happening now is what I've been saying, what I've seen even before leaving the UFC. You know, I always say this, like, I'm an independent contractor. I sign a contract, and then I like to deliver a contract, my obligation, and be free to go or check my opportunity or resign if things are aligned for me, you know. I think it's the same thing, and I really call out some people, because it seems like so many people don't understand that. You're an independent contractor. When you don't fight, you don't have a salary. You know, like, so it's up to you to, and then you don't have a retirement plan. You have to secure to protect your family, because after this, you might be busted, your knee twist, you can walk, maybe concussion and everything. So if you don't get it right now, I think you'll be late. And when you find out, you'll be late. And if it's late, well, then maybe you just need to do some, I don't know, like some GoFundMe, or I don't know, to survive while you spend a lot of time sacrificing yourself for a sport that you could have secured yourself from that.
Do you have sympathy for John Jones now because he's asking for his release, or do you remember when he wasn't so supportive of you when you went through the same thing?
Well, I will not get to the point of sympathy. I think, yes, even though he's frustrated, I think he's not in such bad of a situation. We have to remember that John is not any other fighter out here. You know, he's one of, I mean, is a unique status fighter, profile of fighter. So he can decide his position, he take his control. Like, let's just say this: John will only fight. John fight today if he want to fight. John doesn't have to fight. He will just make it short like that. So yes, but I would say at least he deserves a better treatment, right? For what he have done for the sport, for the company, for everything. I think even me, I want to fight Jones, but I still respect him for what he have done for the sport. That's quite obvious, right?
If you could change one, if you could change one thing about the UFC contracts that you think would make the biggest difference to fighters, would it be bringing back the sunset clause that helped you leave? Would it be raising the pay? What do you think is the one main thing about UFC contracts that needs to change for fighters to be happy?
The sunset clause, because we have to understand the key here is the freedom. It's not the money. You can convert your freedom to money, but the key is the freedom. Being trapped or being a whole in a contract that you can go out and maybe you're not happy, it's not fair. I think some people, we are talking about this, but some people get satisfied and happy, right? So you have to just speak for yourself and then understand that some people are happy wherever they are, and then let them, it's their choice, But I think...
I think Francis Ngannou hit that on the nail, right? I think that everybody has their own choice of whether they want to get paid the most or get paid, whatever it is that they agreed upon. But with him, I think he's a guy that kind of knows his worth, and he went after it. And, you have to also understand, man, the UFC machine has a great way of making you look bad for sort of not complying to their demands, right? They're going to make you look like, oh, well, you're not going to be able to make money elsewhere or this and that. We're the only people that you can make money with. So they try to gaslight you. But then in the end, as I keep telling you guys this same example with Matt Mitrione when he met Dana White at a club, Matt Mitrione gave him the middle finger and Dana White said, hey, come here. I ain't mad at you. You won. I'm not mad at you. This is how the game works. And that's just something that, you guys have to understand. Yeah, that is how the game works, essentially. But yeah.
It should be everyone's choice to decide to do whatever he wants. Maybe if I have a contract, then I want to fight off my contract. It's my right to fight off a contract.
Chubby says I'm mad at him. Why? Let me know why you're mad at Francis Ngannou. What is it about that Francis Ngannou did that made you mad? Was it a particular choice that he had made in terms of being anti-UFC? Or are you mad because of what he did in the PFL? He says he's so flaky. Well, you know what? I gotta agree with you on that, right? The whole PFL Africa thing, I think was an absolute scam, right? He was brought in there, okay, not just to fight, but obviously they gave him a certain position of, let's say, promotional power. He also had the opportunity to give other African fighters an opportunity just by showing up at their fight. Do you imagine just how much credit and how much clout you give to a young fighter for just showing up at their fights? Conor McGregor does it all the time. If you remember, his buddy Ward, right? He won a Bellator fight. He went in there and just, started, creating havoc, which was great for Ward. It was great for his brand. Conor McGregor going there, getting into a fight with Mark Goddard. I mean, come on, man. What? How is that not good for his brand? Chubby says, yeah, I hope he gets his karma back by Jake Paul embarrassing him in the ring. I don't know if it's Jake Paul that's going to do that, but you know what, man? I think you could agree that in boxing, that would probably be a much more 50-50 matchup, right? Because look, Francis Ngannou is not Anthony Joshua in terms of boxing. So ChatGPT 2.0 says hi. Hello, ChatGPT.
That's why there is a contract and there is a limited term or a number of fights in the contract. It's not a life. I'm not signing my life off. I'm signing for a fight. 4-5 years, 6-8 years. Is it?
If Jake just moves around for 10 rounds, he could do it. Yes. And by the way, stay tuned because Jake Paul is the next person we're going to feature up in here.
A fight year, but it's not my career, So I just think like fighters should have that option. Yes, of course. Even if they still do that, of course, a lot of fighters will still stay in the UFC, But at least they have their options. You know, they don't feel trapped. That's all.
Thank you, Francis. We're gonna put you.
All right, next media scrum is with Jake Paul and Nikisa, and then we'll call it a day from here. I just wanted to, kind of get in here, do a short one, and, well, not a short one, but, obviously a less longer one than I would usually do. I mean, I would do streams for like hours and hours upon hours, especially fight companions, and sometimes not even just fight companions, just these regular live streams. But yeah, this will be the last media scrum we'll react to, and then we'll call it a day. I did 3 live streams today, so this is my 3rd one. I'm definitely cooked, and on top of that, we got about just a couple of days left before Ramadan ends, so that's always fun. But yes, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all the Muslims out there, and also, man, let's finish this to the finish line all the way to Eid. Let's get this thing rocking with Nikisa and Jake Paul right now.
How you think Shador did this season, Jake?
Say it again?
How you think Shador did this season?
Oh yeah, let's go. Shout out to Shador, shout out to the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, he really proved himself and started to play amazing and get the hang of it and get the pace of the NFL speed. And it's, really exciting future with him as the Browns quarterback.
This question to both of you.
Let's go.
The way to enter this sport with the splash is something you guys have done. You guys have called yourself disruptors. We're now talking MMA. For a long, long time, this has been the only game in town in the UFC. To come into the sport with these 2 fights, how exciting is it for you to maybe show that there's an alternative way to do this?
Yeah, it's very exciting. That's what we've always done, is break down barriers and be super disruptive and change the combat sports world for the better.
He's definitely right, man. What Jake is doing here is absolutely disruptive to the combat sports world. I mean, absolutely disruptive, right? First of all, he's bringing in Ronda Rousey when Ronda Rousey could not get a fight with the UFC due to the fact that maybe it was because of her opponent, or maybe they just were not seeing eye to eye in the direction and the vision that they currently have in comparison to the vision that maybe Ronda Rousey had going on. But here's Jake Paul, who is very open, very innovative, and on top of that, was willing to take a shot at this particular venture, and why not? It could be very lucrative, and Jake Paul is really proving himself to be a formidable promoter, and who would not want to come and work with him if you had the opportunity to do so? And certainly Francis Ngannou is in that same boat as well.
I think this event is a statement. I think there's a lot of tension out there in the MMA world, and a lot of fighters who want better opportunities. And our motto has always been fighter first. And I think that's what we're going to be able to prove with this event, is big viewership, big money, and giving another option to fighters out there in the MMA world of a good place to go.
You talk about other options. We all know, the UFC contracts are pretty restrictive, pretty long-term, hard to get out of. What messages would you have to guys under the current UFC roster that maybe listen, just get out of it, and there's somewhere else for you to go? Or what would you say to those guys?
We're not looking to interfere with anything to do with their contracts, right? John Jones said he wants to be released, and I tweeted, UFC should release him. He's not in a good place. I wasn't trying to interfere, I was just saying, yeah.
Can you imagine if John Jones gets released and then he signs with Jake Paul? Okay, now we're talking about disruption, we're talking about disruptors, this, that, and the other. This is disruption 101 at its best.
I agree with Dana. The guy's hip is bad. Let that old man out of his contract to go make a few shillings somewhere else. But we have the benefit that
you mean with you guys, basically, right? That's what you're saying, yeah. Release him so that he can come with you guys, and you guys can make money off of him. That's really what Nikisa is saying here. Yeah, sarcastically saying he's an old man, right? He has bad hips. So being that he has bad hips, why don't you just release them? And the next thing you know, as soon as John Jones is released, Nikisa's on the phone. He's like, hey, John, what's up? You want to come through? Yup. All right, say less. All right, we're going to sign you. And that's exactly the plan right there.
We built this relationship with him for the past 2.5 years. We have the benefit that I was front and center for what I believe was the best period of UFC in terms of what that product was.
That's right. Nikisa was part of the UFC at one point.
Lorenzo, saw a lot from Dana, and now we can take that with Ronda Rousey, who's the biggest star in the UFC, bigger than your man Conor McGregor in 2015. He was unequivocally, numbers-wise, she was bigger than Conor in that year, and she's launching this, right? And from the first time I sat down with her, she said, "I want to start MVP MMA." That was her vision, her like aspiration. I said this to her, and I'll say it to you guys. It all depends on how this event does. Right? If this event does well, and we see that there's a demand for this, and him and I sit down and say there's a real opportunity to do this successfully in a strategic way that is not losing tons of money, we'll definitely go after it. And I think the UFC would welcome that. They're getting sued left, right, and center for being a monopoly, right? So they're probably like, yeah, sure, let these idiots do it. They don't know what they're doing. That's not what we do. Everything that they say they don't do is what they do.
Do you guys agree with Ronda that they're just looking for the most cost-effective fights at this point, just to save their Paramount money?
I think, look, Mark Shapiro was on an earnings call, and he said, oh, fighter pay is very important to us, but so are our margins, right? Exact words. We're going to protect these margins. So you can sit.
And that right there is the indication when they say we're going to protect our margins, they're showing you who they are. And remember what Dana White said. When they tell you who they are, believe them.
Up there and say, oh, don't worry, fighter pay is just doing fine. It's going to continue to go up. But if the margin is 40%, which is unheard of in almost any industry, let alone sports, look at ball and stick sports and what those margins are. It's just not an unfair equation, right? And I think fighters more and more will start to see that. I think Eddie Hearn coming in as an agitator is funny in many ways, but also could be powerful because there's never been a sophisticated manager at his level who's running $1 billion promotional business that understands the inside and outside of fighter contracts the way that he does. I don't believe 1,000 fighters have reached out to him, as he said, because there isn't 1,000 fighters that actually would be able to get to him. But is there 20, 30, 40 real athletes that start working with Eddie Hearn? I think that's great for the sport. And it'll be a good check and balance for the UFC as well.
Okay, go ahead, Jorge.
A couple years ago, you signed with a PFL to do MMA. If this does take off, would you be willing to fight in MMA?
Yeah, 100%. I've always just liked to challenge myself and be a disruptor and do things that people wouldn't expect me to do. I have a wrestling background. I love it.
But you know, in all honesty, Jake Paul doesn't have good kicks. You know what I mean? Like, Jake Paul, I've seen the way that he kicks. It's not that good. Submissions, obviously, that's something he still needs to work on. Wrestling, yeah, it's there. Boxing, sure. He says he likes to challenge his chin. Well, there you go. A debate of everything present. Yes, he definitely likes to challenge his chin. And look how deformed his face is in comparison to before, right? Like, I don't know if that's just indicative of weight gain, or if that's really swollen from, you know, the Anthony Joshua fight. But either way,
MMA, and I would be down to learn some kicks and some.
Oh, there it is. As soon as I said, yeah, you need to go and learn some kicks, that's literally what he just said right there. Yeah, I need to go and learn some kicks. Correct.
Mission and some submission defense. I would be down, and I tried very, very hard multiple times with Nate Diaz to make that happen. That I believe is the perfect fight for me in MMA. So I would still like to make that happen.
But just to be clear on that question, right? During his time at PFL, it was never that he was going to fight. If he was going to fight, he was going to do it with PFL. And we tried with Nate.
I'm going to be honest with you. I honestly think Jake Paul has a good chance of beating Nate Diaz, right? And the reason being is because Nate Diaz doesn't have enough strength and power to really threaten Jake in the MMA space. Although he can submit him, let me rephrase that, right? I think Nate can submit him, but Jake can knock out Nate in MMA and in boxing. He hasn't knocked him out in boxing, but in MMA there's smaller gloves, and Jake is a big boy, and he lands that shot. You know, it's night for Nate.
That was the dream fight, and I still think that fight has possibility.
Jay, where do you think right here, go ahead.
Kobe came with all the smoke fight. We asked Usyk last time we saw him if he would be willing to fight you, and he said he would in MMA. Would you be willing to fight him in MMA or boxing? How do you think that would go?
Yeah, I think the MMA fight between us would be super interesting, and I'd put us more on a level playing field. And I think it would be very, very difficult for me. Again, he has the height advantage, the weight advantage, and I think it would be very tough. But
I agree. I think him fighting Francis Ngannou in MMA would be very tough. But I think in the boxing world, just like what Chubby said right up here, right? He says, yeah, I hope he gets his karma back by Jake embarrassing him in the ring. Chubby says, if Jake just moves around for 10 rounds, he could do it. Yes, I agree. So I agree that boxing is the most even playing field that Jake could do it in, because he has absolutely zero chance to do anything to him in MMA whatsoever. Francis Ngannou is a world champion, mixed martial arts fighter for a reason, and Jake has no chance in that realm. But boxing, yes, I think they're pretty even in boxing, indicative of their 2 separate fights with Anthony Joshua.
I would be down to give it a run for his money.
Hey Jake, Ryan Garcia, have you seen, what do you think about Ryan Garcia's performance, and would you fight him again?
What a casual that they just brought in here. He obviously never fought him. This dude is a casual. They need to get him up out of here. Who is this? Who is this, freaking, reporter here, right? They need to get him up out of here. He knows nothing about MMA. How do they even give these people other passes right now? I understand the UFC is very protective of the people that they bring in there, but at the same time, for crying out loud, man, yeah, why bring this casual in here? Like, this dude definitely didn't know what he was talking about. But anyways,
I never fought him, but no, I would fight Ryan for sure. And I thought his performance was...
And I think that would be a very favorable matchup for Jake, honestly. I think that he could actually beat Ryan Garcia.
It was really good.
Ryan Garcia is fast. He's quick, athletic, but Jake is too big and strong for him.
And
weight classes matter in boxing for a reason, and even Anthony Joshua showed you that.
Probably one of the best he's ever looked in recent times. So I was, despite our beef in the past, I was very happy for him.
What I love about Ryan, what I love about Ryan Garcia is similar to Jake. He speaks his mind at all times. He's not afraid of the repercussions of saying exactly what he's thinking and taking responsibility for that. That means he's a disruptor.
I'll tell you what's really insane about Ryan Garcia, right? Ryan Garcia goes and, says all these crazy things about, X, Y, and Z. And the next thing you know, he comes back with this redemption. And now all of a sudden, it's like as if people forgot. It kind of reminds me of Logan Paul when he had that situation in Japan back in 2017. Now look at Logan Paul right now, right on top of the world, even bigger than ever. And, he took Jake along with him. And now look at what Jake has done in boxing, and also take a look at what Logan has done in the WWE. They bounce back from some, really controversial moments.
Just like Jake Paul.
Jake, Jake, when Francis says he wants to give you a beating, how do you separate the business side to hand him his paycheck after he's been saying, like, man, I would take it to you?
You know what? I think Jake is a person that doesn't take a lot of things personal. I think that he really sees things in a business matter of fact. Whereas with Francis Ngannou, I think he has shown in the past how much of a volatile person that he is, and how much he does take a lot of things personally in comparison to Jake Paul. But yeah, either way, I think Francis Ngannou, sort of threatening him at the press conference, making it entertaining. I think this will absolutely sell the fight. And of course, Jake is unfazed by any of this, right? He's proven that he's a crazy guy. He will step in there with anybody. And guess what? If it's boxing, he might just win. And it could be winnable for him, but not in MMA. Not at all. Boxing, yes, winnable, because you never know what the judges are thinking after 12 rounds or 10 rounds, however long it may be. But rest assured, yeah, boxing is way more even for Jake Paul with Francis Ngannou than if he was to fight Francis Ngannou in MMA.
No, yeah, like that's why I don't get offended. You know, at the end of the day, business is business. And I just think it's funny. Like he can say what he wants, but Anthony Joshua had him unconscious, laying on the ground for 5 minutes, and I just stood right back up and went, "Whoa!" when Anthony hit me. So, like, I proved just in that night alone that I'm a better boxer than
Jake, what do you make of?
And that right there is a reason why that fight would be a 50-50 fight between him and Francis Ngannou in boxing. In MMA, he would be a 50-50 fight with Nate Diaz in MMA at this point of Nate Diaz's MMA career, perhaps.
I totally agree with her, and that's what I like about Ronda is she always speaks her mind. She doesn't give a fuck, and I'm the same way, and I've been saying it for a long time that the UFC is slowly turning into something that I'm not a fan of, and I used to be the UFC's biggest fan and follow all the fights and fighters and be excited and etc. And it just turned.
Look, sometimes Jake Paul does say things, you know, to get under people's skin. You know, he's always wanted to get at Dana White's skin. I think he genuinely means this, right? Because this type of talk that he's sort of displaying right now is something that I see from former UFC fans, genuine former UFC fans that no longer watch. They are saying the same thing that Jake Paul is saying.
Into something else.
All right, one more question. What do you make about the beef between El-Kheer and Dana White?
I think it's very entertaining, and yeah,
I agree with that. It is very entertaining and great for the business as well.
I think it's good content and good for both of their promotional abilities, and I think we'll see more UFC fighters go and sign with Eddie Hearn, which I think is a very smart move on their part.
Who wins the boxing match between them?
Eddie would definitely win.
I think Dana destroys him.
What? Oh, wow. Who's...
Really?
Dana destroys him. Dana knows how to box. Eddie does not know how to box. Dana knows how to.
I may have to disagree with that, right? I think Eddie Hearn knows a thing or two about boxing. He has had some amateur boxing matches when he was a kid. He actually boxed under the name Eddie Hill. And the reason why he did that was because he did not want people to know that his dad was Barry Hearn as a result. Abdul Rahim says, hi, assalamu alaikum, how are you? Ramadan Kareem. You know everything. Like and subscribe. Blessings and greetings. Thank you. Shout out to you, Abdul Rahim. Yeah, you caught me just right at the end. And yeah, we're actually about to end this live stream right now.
He was a kickboxing instructor, though.
Yeah, he was Tybo.
Jake had a few Emmys. No, Jake. Eddie had a few Emmys.
I think Dana would destroy him.
Was it true that Van Dam called you out?
Yeah.
He called him out. He tried to follow him in Milan. He sent people to find us, try to make a fight. It just what a legend. What an absolute rock star. But it's not gonna happen.
Yeah. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Wow, okay, so final take on that was Jean-Claude Van Damme wanted a piece of Jake Paul. And at this point of Jake Paul's career, who does not want a piece of him and whatever he has going on? Smart promoter, big risk taker, and on top of that, you know, another W for this Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano card. However, what I will say is that this is not better than the White House card, okay? It's not. Although the White House card was not what people would have wanted, they expected more due to the hype. On any given Sunday, on any given Saturday, on any given pay-per-view day, Justin Gaethje versus Ilia Topuria would have been a great pay-per-view fight, along with having Alex Pereira and Cyril Gane as the co-main event for the interim championship. Way better card than Francis Ngannou and Lenz, who nobody really knows him. He was a UFC reject, right? Or got dropped from the UFC, not to make it a derogatory term, but you know what I mean. And then you got Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano. This is no different than Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao all over again. Floyd Mayweather and Mike Tyson in an exhibition. Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. But either way, guys, that is all that I have for this one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next one, inshallah. And Abdul Rahim says, bye, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Stay educated and pray to Allah. Yes. And we got a couple more days left for Ramadan. Man, that time has gone by so quickly. Before you know it, Eid will be here, and enjoy every moment of it. Inshallah. See you in the next one.